Hey amigos, I hope everything's going okay with you guys with everything that is crazy in the world today. Sorry for such a late coming video, but you know, life happens, and well, enough of the sob story. I'm not going to give you one. But I'm here in the garage today, and it's a hot, stinky day out there, but nevertheless, I got something that needs to be done, and I thought maybe I might share it with you guys. You know, what I'm going to do is, well, check this out. I got to looking at the Tramp, and you can see there's a little bit of oil residue on the tubes. There's some dirt that accumulated from oil and all that kind of stuff. So basically what that means is that I have a leaky seal, and I'm going to change the fork seals out on this motorcycle. If you stick around a little bit and you check out how this is done, it may benefit you so that you can also know how to do this yourself. I'm going to tell you that Harley Davidson front ends, at least this kind of design, the Showa front ends, I don't know about inverted front ends like the new bikes. They are exactly the same, just like the Suzukis, the Kawasaki's, the Hondas. It doesn't matter what kind of bike you have. I mean, even though this is a 39 millimeter, even the bigger millimeters are the same. They work on the same principle. They have all the same kind of parts. They go together the same. They come apart the same. They work exactly the same way. So if you have a Honda, Kawasaki, Suzuki, Harley Davidson, this will work for you. So anyway, I've got my seal kit that I picked up. It's been sitting around the house for a while. I've been procrastinating doing this. So I'm gonna quit yammering my hammer, and we'll see how far we can get into this. We might get it done today, we may not. So I think I'm gonna get busy. Okay, now what I'm going to do next, inside of these tubes, each tube has a really long coil spring, and that coil spring is putting a whole lot of pressure on top of these caps, because these caps are going to have to come off, and there's a whole lot of pressure behind there. So what I'm going to do, this is my method of doing this part, I'm going to leave the tubes inside the triple trees, and I'm going to use my triple trees as a form of a vise to hold these things in place so that I can get this cap off and this cap off too, and then we'll see what happens next. Okay, what I didn't do that is orthodox is that I didn't drain the oil out of these tubes before I took the front end apart. That's the usual case scenario, but if you do that, you can do it if you want. You don't have to, but I didn't do it. But you undo these little screws and you just let the thing sit for a while. Well, what I usually do, I just take the cap off and I just dump the stuff out. But before I do that, there's a 6 millimeter cap screw that's in here that has to be undone. And I don't want to take this cap off first, because I want the tension of the coil spring on the dampener that the screw is screwed into, so that I can have some tension on that dampener so I can get the screw undone. And then after that, I'm going to take this cap off, I'm going to take the coil springs out, and I'm just going to dump the oil out, and then I'm just going to let these tubes, I have one for each of these tubes, sit in these little homemade oil pans and just let the oil drain out so it won't be so much of a mess to handle. Here's the part where you're going to carefully take these caps off. There's a whole lot of tension up underneath this cap from the spring that's in here, so you got to keep tension, you know, pushing down on the cap. Maybe you know, use a rag or something like that. Once that thing comes off its last thread, it's going to want to jump off. You make sure you have something between you and the cap other than just your hand, because that thing will jump up and hit you in the teeth or in the eye or something, and it's not funny when it happens. Okay, well, this is a little bit of a stopping point just for a little bit. I'm just going to go ahead and get me some lunch while these tubes are just letting all that residual oil drain out of them. Got all the guts right here. This is my spring. Here's my dampeners. Oh, and by the way, if you have a stock Harley Davidson that doesn't have a stretched out front end, you don't need these, but these are just spacers for my front end because my front end is actually 10 over. So you always got to add some kind of spacers between the cap and the spring. So anyway, if you're doing this kind of thing on your motorcycle and you have a stock motorcycle, don't be looking for these, okay? Just be looking for that thing, putting pressure on that, and make sure it don't pop out and hit you in the face or fall on the concrete and damage the threads, because you got some really fine threads right there. For now, I'm gonna go in, like I said, get some lunch, and I'm gonna come out and continue on with this, okay? So I'll see you guys in a little bit. Okay, back from lunch, and now that I think I've got most of the residual oil, I'm going to go ahead and start taking the rest of it apart. Let's get started on that. And the first order of business is to get this dust cover off. Usually the help of a screwdriver will help. There's a little notch right there in the lower leg to give you a little bit of a head start. So at least Harley expected you to have to do this every once in a while. Okay, that wasn't too hard. So next thing to do, I don't know if you can see, but there is a clip down inside of here that fits in a groove, and that's what's holding the seal on. So I'm going to get that clip out, and I'm going to show you guys how to get that seal out of there. All right, take the screwdriver and get it behind that little notch right there, and it should come out just like that. And just do the same. Find your little notch, take your little flathead, get behind there, and just fish that clip out of there, and it comes right off. Looks just like that. Okay, now your seal is ready to come out, and the way you do that, you just make sure your tube is all the way down like that, and you just pull it out real fast, bang it on the bottom of the seal, and just work it, and it should come right out. A lot like this. Theoretically like that. And it's coming out. And boom! It comes apart. Just gotta be a little patient with it sometimes. Sometimes they come out easy, sometimes they don't come out so easy. Same way with this one. See if this one puts up a fight. Looks like it is. Okay, I tried to make this look easy, but it's decided to give me a little bit of a hard time. Okay, normally it don't work that way, but you guys get the idea. Okay, that was quite an ordeal. Then again, out of all the times I've done that, maybe I just got lucky. Maybe that is normal, maybe it's not, I don't know. But nevertheless, you get the idea how that works. So, got my big mess right here. There's my old seal, it's got to come off. Bushings, blah 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 blah. I'm gonna go ahead and reuse my bushings. It's perfectly okay. You don't have to change your bushings out every time you change your seals out. So I'm gonna go ahead, get the rest of this stuff apart, clean it up, and then put all the new stuff on. Okay, I got the new washers on those screws that go up on the bottom side of those lower legs. They screw right into the dampener. They're not too tight because I don't have the coil springs inside the tubes yet. So once I get the coil springs inside the tubes, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to tighten down real good on those screws so that there will be some pressure on top of that dampener that will hold it in place. Because right now it's wanting to spin out. But before then, I'm going to go ahead and get those brand new seals on. So let's get started on that, and I'll show you kind of what you want to keep in mind whenever you do this. I don't know if you can see down in there's a little bushing that hasn't slid all the way down in its place. Okay, and so what I do to get that in its place is that I take a piece of PVC that I had laying around. It is the perfect diameter that wraps around the OD of this tube. And I just slide it right down in there, and I just do like this, and boom, that bushing is right where it needs to be. It fell right into place. But the other thing that you also want to be mindful of too, on the surface of this tubing, there's a little bit of, I don't know if you can see it on the camera, there's a little bit of corrosion, and I have a little bit of that on this tube too. So being that if you're going to add new seals onto a front end like this, you want to wrap something around that tubing, and namely like a thin piece of plastic or something like that. This is a piece of a plastic bag, a sandwich bag that I cut out, and you're going to want to wrap that around the tubing and then put your seal over top of that and just let that ride all the way down the tubing until you get to the lower leg part just before you go to knock it in. Then you just pull this plastic off. And the reason why, that little bit of corrosion could lacerate the inside of that seal. And before too long, when you go to put this all back together, you get going down the road just in a few miles, maybe 10, maybe 20, in less than 100 miles, you're going to have an oil leak on your front end again. I mean, it won't take much to do a little damage on that seal. So anyway, we'll show you how I do it. And let's not forget the little washer that goes on top, the bushing that your seal sits on top of. Take this little piece of plastic like this, wrap it around like that, and take your seal, and remember, the lip goes downward. See this little cavity area? That goes downward. Let the seal travel downward with the plastic. Get past that area where the corrosion is, and we are in a safe zone. So what I'm going to do next, I'm just going to hold on to the plastic, and all right, now the seal is in a safe zone. Grease. And now I'm going to take the same piece of PVC and I'm going to do to the seal just like I did to that bushing, and I'm just going to drive this thing in there until I see the keeper groove above the seal. And I have a winner. Then you take your keeper, slide it down the tube, and you can just about put it in by hand. And boom, got the keeper in there. And let's not forget, put the dust seal back in, and it just slides right over, just like that. And you can push it on by hand. That is installed. Then you take your metal dust cover, of course clean it off a little bit like that, slide it on. Alright, now that's installed. Then I'm going to do the same procedure to the other one real quick. I dropped my spring down in there, so the next thing I have to do, that is only unique to the Tramp because this is an overstock length of front end, about 8 inches or 10 over actually I think, and I had to custom make my spacers to take up for the slack, the extra tubing, because my spring is not exactly the length it would be, say like if it were a stock motorcycle. Put that piece down in there, and now the real struggle begins. And what I mean by a struggle is to get this cap back on this tube, this fine thread started, while you have resistance against the spring, and you're constantly, while you're pushing down, you're always wanting to push this tube down inside the slider. And you know, I'm sure you guys have done this, know exactly what I'm talking about. But if you know a better way to do this and you see how I'm doing this, please leave a comment down below how I could do it a whole lot better and a lot easier too. Hey, I got it started. Woohoo! I guess not. This is getting very aggravating. Well, that was no joke. No joke at all. As I was saying, that's the struggle, and the struggle begins. Now, I'm gonna save myself some editing by not even filming the next fork tube, but you guys got an idea how it goes. I'm gonna go ahead and lay this camera down, put the other one together, and then put the front end back together on the motorcycle. I got the front end all together, the wheels back on, and I hope that was helpful for you guys, whoever you are that's never replaced your fork seals before, but hopefully you can glean from this. So if you can dig it, man, feel free to give it a thumbs up. And if you like what you're seeing and you're new to the channel, go ahead and subscribe for more content coming up, you know. And I keep saying all the time, I don't know what I'm going to film next, and that is the truth, because I have no idea when I'm going to get back to the iron head again. There's a few stumps, a few things I got in the way. Anyway, but that's that. So anyway, until then, you guys keep the rubber side down, and you be good to yourselves. Thanks a lot.